My question is in relation to scope of the mandatory training requirements and model councillor code of conduct. Can you provide some further detail on the scope and how will these be tailored to address the misconduct issues that we've seen in local government?
Thank you. The bill sets out a comprehensive training program for councillors by requiring councillor induction training to be completed within 4 months of taking the oath or affirmation of office. Currently, councillors have 6 months to complete this training. Professional development training to be completed by all councillors each year of their term, beginning in the year following their election. Mayoral training to be completed by all mayors, deputy mayors and acting mayors, if appointment for 1 month or more within 1 month of appointment. And this amendment is, so that clarifies it. Thank you.
Ms Payne.
Thank you, Deputy President. Why has this bill not adopted the New South Wales approach of explicitly mandating professional development so that councillors must acquire and maintain the skills necessary to perform their role?
Minister.
Thank you very much. Part of the role of the steering committee will be to develop that training and look at what is best suited to the Victorian local government sector as opposed to the New South Wales version thereof. Of course, learnings from other jurisdictions are important, but ultimately this will be a decision for Victoria and based on, in part, on the advice of the steering committee.
Ms Payne.
Thank you, Deputy President, and I thank the Minister for her response. Noting the time sensitivity of these reforms, and I know that my colleague Dr Mansfield raised an issue similar, how will both the Code of Conduct and training requirements be implemented in a way that does not place undue strains on Council?
Thank you very much, Ms Payne. Again, part of the role of the steering committee will be to look at how the training is modelled, but also look at the impacts in relation to its implementation. It's certainly envisaged that these reforms will strengthen local government rather than put undue pressure on local government. It's ultimately designed to ensure that our system of local government is fairer and more accountable, and that will be part of the important work of the steering committee.
Ms Payne.
Thank you, Deputy President, and I thank the Minister for her response. So with the steering committee, I'm assuming that there is interactions there between the steering committee, Local Government Victoria and the Chief Municipal Inspector in ensuring that these processes are implemented.
Minister.
Thank you, Ms Payne. My advice from the box is yes.
Ms Payne.
Thank you, Deputy President. And I thank the Minister. That was just by way of informing this next question. What are you doing to ensure Local Government Victoria and the Chief Municipal Inspector are sufficiently resourced to implement these reforms?
Minister.
Ms Payne, my advice from the box is that the resourcing requirements are well understood, fit within the portfolio of the Attorney-General and will be appropriately accounted for.
Ms Payne.
Thank you, Deputy President, and I thank the Minister for her response. Why was the decision made not to mandate Council's report when there is a reasonable belief that a councillor has committed serious misconduct? And how does the current approach avoid incentivising non-reporting?
Minister.
Ms Payne, I'm advised that the model code can include provisions around when reporting can occur. It just hasn't been developed and included as yet.
Ms Payne.
Thank you, Deputy President, and I thank the Minister for her response. I only have 2 more questions left, so I'll try and cover them quickly. Will the disqualification threshold of serious risk to health and safety or preventing the council from performing its function capture serious breaches of the standards of conduct when disqualifying councillors? And if not, does the current threshold fail to capture things like psychological safety?
Ms Payne, if these remarks don't help clarify your question, I might ask you to repeat it. But my advice is that the bill enables, obviously, the creation of the regulations to prescribe a mandatory model Councillor Code of Conduct to apply to all councillors, ensuring the consistent standards of behaviour, meaning that each council needs to develop their own code of conduct for councillors, and all councillors will be held to the same standards of professional, legal and ethical conduct expected of them as decision makers and representatives in their community, and enabling the regulations to be made to prescribe the process for councils to follow to attempt to resolve disputes in the first instance. And the reforms implement the 3 recommendations from, obviously, IBAC's Operation Sandon's special report. Furthermore, Victoria is the only state without a mandatory model code of conduct. However, the local government governance and integrity regulations currently prescribe the standards of conduct. Serious risk to health and safety isn't defined, so it can include things like risk to psychological safety, etc.
Ms Payne?
Thank you, Deputy President. Thank you, Minister, for your response. And just my final question, what measures are in place to ensure allegations of serious misconduct where the principal councillor conduct register decides it does not reach the required threshold can be easily referred to an internal arbitration process?
My advice is that under the legislation, the principal conduct registrar can still refer it through the relevant process.